Welcome to Deep Dive.
Oh.
Okay, so today we're jumping into a really fun but tricky question. What's arguably the best film of the decade so far? We're talking 2020 to 2025.
Right. And the goal isn't just like our personal favorite.
No, exactly. We want to try a more, let's say, scientific
Yeah.
approach, sort of data-driven.
Using a few key lenses, box office, so commercial success.
Yep. Then critical acclaim, what the professional reviewers thought.
Audience reception, how the public rated them.
And finally, industry recognition. Think major awards like the Oscars.
Yeah. But we absolutely have to acknowledge the huge impact of the pandemic, especially early on. It really skewed things, particularly the box office in 2020 and 2021.
Definitely. So let's dig in. Where do we start? Box office.
Makes sense. And 2020 was weird. Remember Demon Slayer?
Yeah.
Mugen Train? It made over $500 million globally.
Wow. And that wasn't a typical Hollywood giant, was it?
Not at all.
Mhm.
Mostly regional power, Japan especially.
Yeah.
It showed how uneven cinema access was, letting non-Hollywood films grab the top spots.
Okay, so a bit of an anomaly year. But then Hollywood started coming back.
Yeah, 2021 saw Spider-Man. No Way Home pull in almost, $1.9 billion. A massive return.
Huge numbers.
But interestingly, you also had China's The Battle at Lake Changjin making almost $1 billion itself. Shows the power of huge local markets too.
Right. So not just Hollywood anymore. Then came the real event films. Yeah.
Exactly. 2022, Avatar, The Way of Water, over $2.3 billion. Clearly, audiences were ready for that big screen spectacle again.
And 2023. Well, everyone remembers Barbenheimer.
Oh, yeah. Barbie hitting $1.4 billion, Oppenheimer getting close to $1 billion. It just proved that, a cultural moment, a zeitgeist, could make totally different films massive hits.
It really felt like everyone was talking about those two. And breaking records continued, right?
It did. 2024 gave us Deadpool and Wolverine at over $1.3 billion, which made it the highest grossing R-rated film ever. Kind of blew the lid off that ceiling.
Okay, so the commercial landscape is complex, but you mentioned something really interesting about early 2025.
Yeah, this is potentially game-changing. China's Ne Zha 2 is projected at around $2.2 billion globally.
Wow, another huge number. So competing with Avatar.
Well, here's the kicker. Less than 3% of that massive number is projected to come from outside China.
Wait, really? Almost entirely one market?
Almost entirely. So it makes you ask, what does global blockbuster even mean if one giant market can essentially create one on its own? It could really shift how we think about cinematic power.
That's a huge point to consider. Okay, let's pivot. What about the critics during this time? They often focus more on, artistic merit.
They do. In 2020, they really championed films like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Soul. Both got scores in the high 90s on Rotten Tomatoes. Artistic vision was key.
So more art house focus initially.
Somewhat, but it broadened. 2021 saw praise for documentaries like Summer of Soul, 99% on RT, but also for Spider-Man. No Way Home at 93%.
Okay, so critics aren't just about small indie films.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They appreciate great craftsmanship anywhere. Look at 2022's Top Gun, Maverick, 96% RT, big blockbuster, but critically acclaimed for its execution. And by 2024, you had films like All We Imagine Is Light getting perfect scores. Critical best is really about quality, not scale.
Gotcha. So critics have their view. What about the audience? Their tastes can be pretty different, right? Especially on Letterboxd.
Definitely. Letterboxd users often skew younger, more towards film nerds, let's say. But sometimes things align. Barbenheimer in 2023 was huge there, too. Barbie was #1 in popularity, Oppenheimer #2. A real cultural connector.
That's interesting, but you see divergences, too.
Oh, absolutely. Take 2024, Dune. Part 2 was Letterboxd's highest-rated film. But then you compare something like Moana 2, which made over $1 billion,
Yeah.
with a film like Anora. Anora had a much smaller box office, but way higher engagement and ratings within those cinephile communities. Big box office doesn't always equal deep audience love,
Right, different kinds of success. Okay, final piece. Industry recognition. The awards. How did that play out?
Well, the pandemic hit 2020 awards, too. Nomadland won the Best Picture Oscar, yeah. But Cannes didn't even give out its main prize, the Palme d'Or, for a feature that year.
Things got back on track, though.
They did. 2022 was the year of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Swept the Oscars, including Best Picture. The industry clearly loved its originality, its genre bending.
That film was everywhere. And then Oppenheimer.
2023. Oppenheimer did something pretty rare. Best Picture wins at the Oscars, the Golden Globes, and the BAFTAs. That's a major alignment across the big awards bodies.
A real consensus pick then.
Pretty much. But then 2024 threw another curveball with Anora.
Winning.
It won both the Oscar for Best Picture and the Palme d'Or at Cannes. That dual win is incredibly rare. It means it appeals strongly to both like the American industry and the European art house circuit. Quite a feat.
Wow. Bridging those worlds.
Exactly. And sometimes awards make statements too. Early 2025, the Palme d'Or went to It Was Just an Accident. The director, Jafar Panahi, had just been released from prison in Iran. So awards can have political weight too.
Okay, so putting this all together, this science, it's clear no single film usually tops all four categories, right?
Very rare. It really highlights how multifaceted Best is. But if you had to pick a frontrunner based on hitting all those marks strongly,
It sounds like Oppenheimer comes closest.
I'd say so, yeah. Massive box office, rave reviews, resonated with audiences, and swept the major awards. It's probably the strongest candidate for that holistic achievement in this period.
But not the only story.
Definitely not. You have everything, everywhere, all at once. Maybe not Oppenheimer's box office, but huge critical love, audience passion, that Best Picture win. It really broke ground artistically.
And Anora.
Anora represents that amazing artistic validation. That dual Oscar Palme d'Or win is huge, even without the blockbuster numbers. It shows excellence across different evaluation systems.
So the takeaway isn't one single best film.
Not really. It's more like a constellation of films that excelled in different ways.
Yeah.
Our scientific look shows that. Oppenheimer might be the most rounded success story right now.
But these other films represent peaks of artistry or audience connection.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that question about Ne Zha 2.
Right. The massive film driven almost entirely by China's box office.
Yeah. It leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? What does it mean for cinematic excellence, for the idea of a global blockbuster, when dominance can come almost entirely from one, albeit massive, region? How might that change our definition of best in the years ahead?
Something for you all to chew on until our next deep dive.